Go. And hit recording.
The recording has started.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the seventh grade. I went to the seventh grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word? I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Thank you for joining us on this Monday, September 4th, 2017. You're listening to the Disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. And take it away, Ed.
Thank you. Anyhow, we'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I want to hit a major topic tonight dealing with a couple things, but I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, those who join us afterwards. We are doing this for educational purposes, is that we're learning ourselves and we're passing our knowledge and education along to everybody. Okay, so the thing is that we have to work together, and everybody keeps going on in the system. Well, we can't do this. We can't do that. Well, it gets frustrating when you start saying we can't instead of we can. And if we start saying we can, and we start filing our paperwork, because they did set this system up in a contract system. So that way we have a contract, and then that way if you have to go to court, they have to represent your contract. And people are doing this. They are getting it done. They are doing this with the courts. And so this is the one thing that, working together on this. We could change the system here, but we have to do it. They're not going to do it. The public employees ain't going to do it, so we have to do it. I've got a couple things that I put out on a case that I've been doing with 9E again. I made that public, and so we got the templates up there on his case. You can read the filing on his case. It's on all three of the sites, the United States For America, Elected and Public Servants Oversights, and then we have the new.Oregon site, and then we have the Civil War 1866 Lawful Bloodline Americans. And so we do put up the templates up there to go through and read it. The one thing that I want to hit on, and Dave want to hit on too, is dealing with taxes. I get so many people telling me, you're going to get in trouble for not doing this, or you're going to do this and that. And it's like, I get so disturbed because these people come across to me as they work for the system. So, I don't care. They're learning. They're putting it together because they realize if the stuff hits the fan in our country, if we don't stick together, we're all doomed. This ain't just about one or another or one group or anything like this. We've got to save the Constitution, not keep going on where people want to rewrite it, redo it. You have to learn what we have. And if we change it, we lose it. That's losing the contract. And that's the one thing you don't want to change it to go to a democracy like we've been living, or living hell we're living. With these maritime courts and, rape, robbing, and pillaging our kids and stealing them. But anyhow, I wanted to get into that one, too, with the 1938 Foreign Registration Act. And that's what I want to bring up to everybody. We do have it on the site now, information. I believe we have on the site, too, I haven't been back on my site. I got to figure out where it is. We've got the Foreign Registration Act information up there. We've got the complaint form. We got the forms you can file on your public servant. And this is where I wanted to get, that nurse to comprehend it, the one that was assaulted. Because she stood up for a man that was in an auto accident that the cops brought in. Okay, so, and when the cops here in Newport assaulted me, that's what they did. They came in and tried to force them to get blood out of me, because they were trying to come up with something to go after me on. So they were going after that, and so when I saw that, I knew that procedure and that sneakiness that goes on. And this is the one thing, it does happen. It is going on. We're living this stuff. So we're getting the forms starting to get put up on a website. So you can go to the website, and then you go on FARA. I'm trying to find it right now. I've got there it is. It just takes me a while to find something sometimes. But we've got it up. We've got the forms up there, and that's the one thing I wanted to get into the structure, even with Comey. And this is the point where people don't get it. If you're not registered with the Foreign Administration Registration Act as elected and public servants, and even a contractor to the elected and public servants, it's a crime because you're a foreign agent. You give up your rights as a lawful bloodline American and as what they call a citizen. So you give up your rights 100%. So, and that's for that paycheck. And I'll read that law here in a minute. I know I haven't gone through my site here recently, so I can't quote it right off the top of my head. And that's my fault,
Hello,
folks.
Edward.
Huh? Are you finally here, Dave?
I'm finally here. I'm sorry I'm late.
No problem, no problem. So we're going to hit on FARA, and then we'll hit into the other part of the taxes.
Okay.
So anyhow, I wanted to get in with the FARA structure. You know, this is the one thing that people need to comprehend, that there are foreign registered agents. And the reason why 1938 Foreign Administration, tongue twisted for some reason, Foreign Agent Registration Act, is that if we were dealing with anybody foreigners from any other country, territory, we need to know who's in our country. The United States is not just a free border, open border country. And that's where people make their mistakes. They want to claim that, oh, we're a free, open border country. We are not a free border country. So that Foreign Registration Act says that even if you're elected a public servant, you have to register. Any foreigner, any immigration has to register. That's the law. And this is where everybody's going, because the last 10 years, 12 years, we've been so relaxed on it, because, you know, they've been deciding to have all this income coming off of these birth certificates, and they've been draining our accounts for the foreigners. And this is very disturbing. So the question I got asked earlier, how would I handle this with the nurse? And I mean, I've on her friend's Facebook page, I mean, I've made contact with several people dealing with that, and so I got information out to them. First off, I would be filing assault charges on the officer involved. I would want to make sure he is registered with the Foreign Registration Act. I wouldn't tell him about it. I would just go ahead and, just file the complaint on him. Let him answer that. That's his responsibility. So, you know, we have solutions to our problems. And the thing is looking them up, finding the solutions, because we have these things in place. And the other point we always hear is that, oh, they're not doing their job. Well, people, we've been dealing with a democracy that we've been lazy, because most people don't know their own constitution. They don't read the laws. They do what they're told. They don't question it, and they're just sheeple. They just put their heads up in a cloud and figure if they keep it up in the cloud, nothing will happen to them. So, and also, too, in the Foreign Registration Act, and that includes any and all political activities of a foreign principal has to be registered. And technically, and that statement means all churches, because all churches and religion are foreign to this country. So there's a lot of things that we could do to save the country, enact our Constitution, and make our elected and public servants do their service. If we don't stand up to this, this is why we are in the problems we are today. So dealing with the Foreign Agent Registration Act was enacted June 8, 1938. Okay, it requires agents of foreign principal, registered Secretary of State agent, all foreign principals was defined as any person, you get the word person, on who acts and encourages and agrees to act as a public relation counselor, public agent, as an agent servant, representative, or attorney for a foreign principal. All attorneys have to be registered. And that means lawyers, that means judges, because, you know, judges are all attorneys anyways. So the foreign principal was defined in the government in a foreign country and political party of a foreign country. A person domiciled aboard or any foreign business partnership. And that means if you have a company that you're doing business overseas, you have to register, or from the United States to Mexico. And this is one thing that the country has been so lenient on all this stuff that this is what the law is. So, and this is U.S. 605, United States Code 605. And so, seeing that everything's been so relaxed, this is why our country is in shambles, because we've had the crime rates go up. People are depressed because of work. People are depressed because our system is just bleeding us dry from the inside out. So instead of being honorable, they're just, harassing us by tickets or harassing and insulting this nurse because she would not violate the man's constitutional right in the hospital. She couldn't do it without his authorization. And that's when the cop flipped out and said, "You're under arrest." And it's like everybody in the hospital is all witnesses to an assault. So every witness in that hospital could write a statement because you could see them in the video. So they were there. So that's not hearsay evidence. So there was an actual crime committed by this public servant.
There was actually, Ed, there were actually a couple of crimes committed by those people. Number one, they violated the law relating to the policy of the hospital relating that they cannot do anything to any person without their permission. I think that's called the HIPAA law. So if they violate that, that's a definite violation of your constitutional right. So I don't blame this nurse one bit for standing up for that man because he never consented. So the cops, I don't care, unless they got a court order, they can't just say, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and if you don't, we're going to arrest you. That's bullshit. You know it, and I know it.
Yeah, I know. And that's the one thing, a court order has to be done by a grand jury. A judge cannot do it. That's maritime, not lawful.
That's right. And the police violate that grand jury indictment every time there's an arrest made because the grand jury is the only one who can issue the warrant.
That's right.
So, yeah, these guys are in deep doo-doo. She can sue the daylights out of these guys, and I hope she does.
Oh, same with me. Same with me, because there was a clear assault on her.
You betcha.
And that with every hospital that sees that and every police department, because now they got to worry about if they get hurt now, what's going to happen to them when they go in, because they already started the first attack and it was made public.
Right.
So, and that's the sad part, that these things are getting broke down inside out.
But the thing of it is, even a reprimand, okay, what is that going to curtail? Does that mean he's going to be suspended without pay for X number of days? Is he going to have to make restitution to this lady for the damage he's done to her?
Yeah, I think that restitution comes personally out of his assets, because she can legally do that and lawfully do that because of assault. And not only that, I believe this man has proven that he's incompetent to be on the force.
Oh, most definitely. I don't care if he took an order from a superior. If the superior gave him an order which was in violation of the law and the code and the statute, hey, that guy needs to be up on charges too.
Yep.
And
this has got to stop.
They get cocky and act like they're above the law.
Yep. That's the sad part. They think that they're like gods, like judges. It's my courtroom. It's not the judge's courtroom. It's the people's courtroom. Or else there is no court.
Right. You got to remember, Ed, that the bloodline American is entitled to a constitutional court ran by a constitutional judge with a constitutional oath of office. And that goes for the police officers who work for them, too. They have to obey the Constitution and your rights.
And that's the one thing that people got to comprehend. It is their rights of what's going on. And if they don't start filing for their rights and protecting their rights, because, I mean, we've got a wonderful one that's on our side on the lawful and legal. It's already written. People just need to autograph that one. Put their name in it at the bottom. It's got the space. We wrote it that way.
Right. Michelle and I sent you that information on the forms to use. I don't know if you saw it or not, but you need to get that posted onto the website.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that. I'll get that and get the links and everything set up.
And this is where people can actually go get the instructions on how to fill it out and the paperwork necessary to file charges on elected and public servants.
Good, because once we start getting that up and we can start moving, people start putting this stuff together. You know, to me, to us, it's that difficult because we've been studying so long, and we're putting it together. But people have to get it through their head that this is real, what's going on, about what they think of the system. You know, that we've been so mind changed over the system, and people don't think that they're living basically in living hell.
That's true.
You know,
the people of this nation, who are the first branch of government and the only branch that counts, better comprehend the fact that it is our right to alter and abolish any law that becomes destructive of these ends. And God knows.
And we ask their permission.
Right. We don't need their permission.
That's like some of the ballots and stuff I do, you know, it's like, it's so simple, you know, that we sign it and we've got it doing it lawfully, not legally, and that's what freaks them out.
Make a declaration, have it signed, boom, it's done.
And
I don't know where in the Constitution it says you must be a registered voter to sign a petition. A federal petition. There is nothing like that in the Constitution whatsoever.
That's right.
The bullshit that they're passing around that, oh, you got to be a registered voter to sign a petition is horse hockey.
I know. That's a true statement there, too. Because I went in years ago when I just finally said the heck with the whole system on that after what I went through. But anyhow, I went in, I wasn't registered, and I go in and they hand me a form, they fill it out, and I don't sign nothing. All I do is hand the form back in the envelope and they drop it right in the machine. So, you know, there's a lot of things that people don't realize that they do.
Yeah, sometimes I think they want to read between the lines that aren't there.
Yeah.
For their good, so they can swindle you.
And that's what they're doing, is swindling us out of more tax money basically for these so-called jobs. And you notice the one thing is most of these jails and the structures today, you know, 40, 50 years ago, we didn't have them. You know, I mean, until 73, and it didn't go through till 76, but then hospitals were able to become privatized. Prior to that, the hospital couldn't make profit. So, you know, that was the best part about it. So that way they wrote it off on the birth certificates when they issued them.
Yeah, the law and the statute define the code and the law. So, you know, I think what they're doing is fraud by trickery, is misinterpreting it to ram it down our throat.
Right. And that's the one thing. People get on TV, they get so locked into stuff, they don't pay attention what's going on. You know, I watched a lot of stuff going on around with this nurse in Utah. Not only that, she's an Olympic winner, and that's where people don't get this point. You know, and you want to see an assault. Now you've got a deal where the world is going to be paying attention to what the cops are doing in our country, because when it went to this far and extreme to Olympic medalists, okay, you know, they're all still talked about around the world, so that's going to be one hell of a hit for the police departments.
Oh, you know it. You know it.
You know.
I mean, I think the police have a big enough job to do without stirring up something that they'd have no right to do.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, aren't these people trained in law, code, statute, codification? I know they're not trained in law as far as what a ruling of the court is and how it pertains to the law, because that's obvious by looking at the IRS. The IRS are trained in code, but they don't know jack shit about the law.
Right.
I mean, I sent to these people 70 or 60 rulings of the Supreme Court that aren't found in the IRS code. Does that mean that, they don't exist? No, they exist. That's the reason why I sent them to them and said, hey, wake up. This changes your code.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're key case rulings. They change the code. The problem is Congress, or whoever's responsible for putting the rulings of the Supreme Court in the code, failed to do it. So that's called intentional fraud because 1, it would be an oversight. 60 would be, intentional fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we are today in the IRS code. We have intentional fraud. We even know the 16th Amendment was never lawfully ratified, and therefore, guess what? It's fraud and the inducement.
They know the law, but they don't want to define it the way it's supposed
That's right. They don't want the law defined the way it's supposed to be defined because they can't rape, rob, and pillage if it is.
Right. And that is the one. It is about rape, robbing, and pillaging.
That's right. And we all know,
the main thing, we can't forget human trafficking.
We all know the government is funded by the Fair Debt Reduction Act. The percentage of all loans and credit given is put toward the running of the government, and it's all a bunch of horse hockey that we need to raise taxes on real estate and income. They can't even define income. Because Congress, by legislation, can't define income since it can't alter the Constitution from which it derives its power to legislate. Supreme Court ruling.
Mm-hmm.
So who's defining income that we would have, quote, an income tax? It's horseshit.
Well, what do you do on your checks?
I put HJR 192. Public Law 10, Chapter 48, Stat 112, which means that my bills are paid for by the Treasury. And if my bank honors that, Ed, because I sent them all the information on the Bankruptcy Act and Public Law 192, or HJR 192, I mean.
Right.
And because I am the creditor, guess what? They're honoring my checks. I've actually gained over $7,000 in my bank account since I've been using that system.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a witness to it. So she's seen.
Well, that's the one point with it is that it's figuring out how to do this instead of going these ways these people are selling. All these people who follow their little filings and do this stuff end up in jail. And that's what they're saying. We're finding out, we're putting the things together. We're not going to jail, so it's putting this stuff together so it's facts, not fiction.
Well, they wrote it. We quote it.
That's right. That's why we do all this research, because we're not only doing it for us, we're doing it for you.
Right. People need to catch on to that and study HJR 192, the Bankruptcy Act of 1933. You're entitled to write off your food bill, your heat bill, all your expenses. And they've got to pay it. Because
He just told you how to do it, and that's what you need to put on your checks too.
that's why you get statements. You don't get bills. You get statements.
Mhm.
True bills. They don't get true bills.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you don't know the law. Hey, I told the nurses when I had my stroke. I said, you do realize that Obamacare is nothing but insurance fraud, because Congress already has the enactment in place, HJR 192, to pay all of this stuff.
Right.
Why do you need Obamacare? It's the biggest piece of shit on earth.
Mhm. Yeah, he did write one heck of a thing. And the worst thing about it was March 3rd, 1997, when William Jefferson Clinton signed the payers' income that they were getting for Social Security to the Queen of England. But they couldn't change the original contract of Social Security.
Yeah, well, here's the thing of it. What was the ruling of the court on income? Wage for labor is an exchange. No income is generated.
Mhm.
So if you have an exchange, wages in exchange for your labor, how can there be an income tax?
And they already taxed you on it.
And they already taxed you for it.
Right.
What do they think Social Security is? It's a tax on your labor.
Right.
It's unconstitutional.
That part isn't it?
Yes, it is. No. It's unconstitutional because it's lawful for the corporation to be taxed,
Right.
but they cannot tax you as the employee.
Correct.
Right.
We're talking about the Social Security.
Oh,
And that's the point. He put his business in commercial zone. That's why you write exempt on your tax forms.
W-4, might make out a new one, claim exempt, and they have to stop taking taxes out of your check.
That's simple.
That's simple.
And so when your public employees are screwing us over like they're doing, this is where it's so important under the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act. Because when they're public employees, they have to go by the Constitution. And when they cash their check, they have to go by the Constitution because it says that in their job description.
That's correct.
Possibly I'm a private contractor to the city. Okay, then why are you pulling me over? They don't have authority.
Well, when I asked the cop, what's your emergency that you pulled me over for, he didn't have an answer for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he let me go. Oh, he monkeyed around for about 10 minutes, but when push came to shove, he said, oh, we'll just send you a ticket. I said, well, first of all, you have to tell me what the emergency was you pulled me over for. Have a nice day, sir. You're not in my system.
This is so simple. Once you start doing it, it's called taking responsibility.
Right. Go to Right to Travel ruling by the United States Supreme Court, print it out, carry it with you in your car. Know the fact that the only way a cop can use his woo-woos is in the case of an emergency, and he needs your help.
Right.
So it works. It worked for me in front of 3 witnesses. Plus
Yep.
I had the paper done. That scared. I think that scared the crap out of that cop. It did. You're going to have to sign
Not
this.
used to having somebody talk to them.
Yep. Give me your job description and your badge number and sign on the dotted line so I can turn that ticket into the state treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can pay it. He didn't want nothing to do with that. Plus, he didn't like my $100,000 an hour fee schedule with a minimum 4 hours that I would also lean him up on.
Did you have the documentation there about
I had it all. Yeah. Plus, Ed, I had in that paperwork where I have the right to kill him for false arrest.
That's right, because you fear for your life because he came up to you with a sidearm.
Right. So people
don't recommend people doing that, but it's your responsibility, and if you end up, people will be there to defend you too, but we're not recommending it, but we do support the right to defend your life.
Right. It's self-defense. The ruling of the court is it's self-defense. If you kill a cop for unlawful arrest, it's the same as self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
Involuntary manslaughter. No.
They come up to you with guns, and we don't know what their intent are.
That's right.
Too many people are getting shot across the country.
I mean, gee, look at the nurse compared to what you'd be like if you're out in the field with driving along the road and you get pulled over by an incompetent who's improperly trained in law. Not my problem he's improperly trained in law. I didn't train him.
That's right. That's the whole point.
The supervisor is the guy that needs the filing of a, what do they call that, shoot, I can't remember. The O.J. Simpson claimed it. Darn it. What do they call that, Michelle?
Okay, you're talking about were you talking about this case where you got out of it?
Yeah. Yeah, when they sue you for unlawful death or... Yeah.
Well, and also, it was unlawful search, too.
Yeah. But anyway...
There was quite a few things in that whole thing, but nobody will ever know the truth. But the thing on that whole circumstances, it makes you wonder because you know that both of them were involved.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that neither one,
Yep.
They had to have been involved.
Yeah,
so,
I want to thank people, by the way, who've been sending me well wishes and calling me, wishing me well. The stroke we did find out, did do some damage. I lost a fourth of the vision in my left eye. We're not sure it's permanent yet. I'll know in 3 months, they said. So I have another follow-up visit with my ophthalmologist, and hopefully by then it'll mend itself. But it took a major chunk right out of the center of my eye. So just keep me in your prayers. Hopefully it'll correct itself. So still have a lot of numbness that comes and goes, but that's part of the healing process. They tell me that's a good sign to have those pins and needles in your arms and legs, because that tells you your body is trying to correct itself, relating that the fact that the nerve endings are not dead and they're trying to reconnect. So that's why you get the tingling. So I'm thankful that wasn't any worse than it was. Scares the crap out of you, though. I'll tell you that. But thanks again, everyone, for your prayers and thoughts and phone calls. Really do appreciate it.
Cool. Good to hear that one.
The stroke was caused, by the way, by a combination of high blood pressure and a heart murmur. So we do know that. So, and medication that they put me on now with the blood thinners and high blood pressure pills. It's keeping it calmed down. So it's a lot better than it was 3 weeks ago. So anyway, appreciate it.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine going through that one. I went through heart attacks, but that's been the worst of mine, beside my spine. But that's the one thing too, is putting this stuff up so you folks can start reading to file on the servants, because it's up to you to do this. And everybody goes, well, it's the district attorney's job. I hate to tell you, folks, it's not just the district attorney's job, because the district attorney works for the foreign government. You have to file it and make sure that it goes through the channels, and if they don't do that, you file the criminal charges as you file your paperwork with this stuff. All right? You file the stuff that it says on the deal, with the laws. All right? Identity theft, what is that, 48, brain fart, Dave. What is the number on that one there? I gotta get it.
I didn't hear all of it, Ed.
Oh, I was talking about the number for an identity theft, title US 40, I think it's 42408 or A8, I mean.
Yeah. Well, 42 at 408A8 that deals with Social Security fraud.
Right. That's your identity. If you give your identity out, that's fraud.
The form is, I think, 311.
Yes.
Showing that Form 311, IRS Form 311 on identity theft. 211 or 411. So, but you can actually, there is a form you can get and fill it out. And that's what I've done. Michelle's done. There's been some other people who've done it, and it seems to be working.
And I've done it.
The forms are also on the email.
Oh, the forms are on that email I sent to you.
Oh, cool. All right, we'll get them up there in the next 24 hours.
Once we put that up, people can go to and that's a congressional website, so they can go in there and pull the form that they need to file the complaint.
They can also talk to an attorney.
And you can also get attorney help there. So, on how to.
No, it depends on attorney. I've never met one that was good yet. And I spent a lot of time with them over 35 years.
Yeah.
They're not giving you legal advice. They're telling you how to fill out the.
They do what they're told by the bar. So that's why when me and Dave put up this information and get it out to you, what they're quoting, what the laws are actually stating.
They're not giving you legal advice. They're telling you how to fill out a form.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, Ed, we are having a major storm come in right now. I can see the lightning coming down. So if I just suddenly disappear, it's because the lights went out here. So.
Okay, I know that one. I know about that before.
You can hear. I don't know if you can hear the cracking in the line or not, but I sure can.
Yeah, I can't hear.
So, but it's we're supposed to get a major storm here between 9 and midnight.
We're just having a heat wave over here. It's just 80 degrees, 80 to 100 degrees all day long. Very humid.
Right.
In that website.
But this is the one thing with the Foreign Administration Act. It's part of the oath of office, and I read this before. And this is on the newsletter I put out every week when I do the deal. And this covers clerks, officials, officers, any government employee, contractors, by the United States Corporation and state constitution under this agreement for substance, wages, perks, and benefits they get for their employment. So it's really disturbing when these people don't register when they're supposed to, and when they commit treason, You know, and that is under Article 3, Section 3. And that was even proven by Arbush and Samuels, 10 Utah 2ND 152349P2ND. And 1111121114. And that's the case number on it, where it was dealing with treason for judges. So, you know, there's stuff in place, and it is putting it together correctly. That's why I want to see there's an earth file on these guys for assault. You know, I mean, if you looked at the videotape, you could see the guy had her gripped so tight, his fingers were turning colors.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, you know, that was intention assault to put harm to her permanently.
Betcha. You betcha.
You know? So, I mean, that's a big assault right there. And they can't get away from that because that's all over the internet.
Oh, and by the way, if you notice, they didn't read her rights when they put their hands and put her in cuffs. They did not Mirandarize her.
Right.
That's false arrest.
Right.
And they are not allowed to say one word to her or continue questioning until she has her attorney present. And if
she
they
didn't have
violated her Miranda rights, she's got a get out of jail free card and a big lawsuit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, and that's the one thing that, you know, hopefully, you know, she's got an attorney. That's the one thing that is interesting, and I hope the attorney files the affidavit with her.
Yep.
On it.
That's right. Well, I wish her well. I really do. For what she went through, she deserves all the help she can get. So.
Okay. Anyhow, we got a question that I just got messaged. So, you want to open up the board?
Yeah.
All participants are unmuted.
Hey, Dave. How's it going? Hey, Ed.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I wanted to ask you, Dave. I got a ticket a few months ago for driving without a license, and I heard you mention something about the Treasury earlier. Can I claim this through the Treasury?
Sure can.
Can I get paid on it?
You should be able to be paid by the treasurer for that ticket because the guy violated Hale versus Hinkle. You have a right to conduct your own business in your own way without government interference. That's a violation of your civil rights.
Yeah.
So, the fact that he pulled you over without an emergency, that falls under that right to travel ruling by the court. Take that ruling up to the treasurer's office and say, here, you can have the officer pay this ticket. But in the meantime, you're gonna reimburse me for his stupidity.
Is that something you'd have time to help me work on this week? I know I'm not. I got my hands full. Okay.
But I'll tell you what, that ruling, the right to travel ruling by the Supreme Court, is really pretty cut and dried.
Do you have that one handy, Dave?
That one out yourself. But if not, Ed, do you have time to help him if he needs some help?
Yeah, I'll throw something out on it, but send me that ruling if you got that ruling handy. I think I got it probably in our templates, but.
Well, you know that my computer got keylogger hacked by Microsoft. People claimed to be from Microsoft came in, told me they had a refund of $390 some for me. I need to go to their website So I went to their website, and when I logged on to it, they wiped out my hard drive of the computer and totally destroyed the computer. So I lost all my documents and scans and all that stuff. But what they did not know was that I did have it backed up. So I'm working on getting a new computer here, hopefully before too long. I'll just reload it, and I'll be right back up where I was before. But anybody who calls you with a foreign accent, hang up on them. Don't even talk to them. Because Microsoft Home Office now is in India to avoid paying their corporate taxes. And God forbid we would want someone not to pay their corporate taxes. Because they truly do have income. So that would be a good sign not to buy a Microsoft anything. If they want to avoid corporate taxes, yet they want to make their income off of American bloodline Americans. So buy anything other than a Microsoft product. That would be my thinking on the matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to find. I'll see if I can find that. I'll scan it in and send it to you, and then you can post it on the board.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's up on the board, and I'll get it on his site too.
Okay. But that ruling that I have relating to the right to travel also has that ruling of the Supreme Court where it states you have a right to kill a cop for unlawful arrest. So that'll be a package deal for you.
Not only that, the biggest case on that is Big Elk versus United States.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, I'm going to put it up right now.
I'll run out to the car and grab that folder, and we'll get busy scanning that into the computer. So I have Michelle's computer here. I'll scan it to her computer, and you can get it from there. We'll send it to you. Should have it done right before the end of the night.
So, but yeah, I'll get that put up here in a minute.
That work for you?
Yeah.
Does that help you out any further, Mike?
Yeah, I didn't know you guys were still talking to me. Sorry.
Hello.
Well, sometimes it's hard to hear, Dave.
I'll get that document scanned for you. It's 18 pages, if I remember right. If you print it out, and like I said, it's pure health for cops.
Okay, thanks. The court that I'm in, it's the Superior Court, County in Nevada, and I looked up their Dun & Bradstreet number off their telephone number on the summons they sent me, and on Dun & Bradstreet, the number that comes back is the Judicial Council of California. Okay,
the one other thing you need to do is check the judge out, see if he's traded on D&B as a corporation for profit, because that gives him a conflict of interest.
I also found that there's a case law that says that they have to do business in their Christian names, and that using an initial in the name is not a name.
They can't
Does that still apply?
Their corporate title?
Yeah. Does that not apply?
Yeah, actually, the corporation...
Well, we need to put it and start putting it into court cases, and then we can start seeing.
Yeah.
I put it in mine, and the public defender said that I'm guilty. Deal with it.
Ask him when he became the jury.
Yeah.
Well, hearsay witness?
I've been documenting it. What's that?
Good. I said he's a hearsay witness.
Yeah.
So if he's a hearsay witness, his testimony don't count in court.
So we've got and a guy out here locally to me told me about this website called fireacop.com, and it's got 3 parts to a ticket, and it shows the back of the court copy, because on the back of the court copy, the only thing that should be on there is the cop's thumbprint that issued the ticket.
Interesting.
Nobody's ever seen that, because they're supposed to provide discovery, aren't they?
They're supposed to. That's what they're having you do, is sign a contract. So if they fail to reveal that, that's a violation of Uberma Fide. Uberma Fide is all in the truth in contract law, failure to disclose. That's called intentional fraud. Failure to provide the evidence.
So we got the court administrator, the presiding judge, and the traffic court judge aren't doing business in their Christian names on their paperwork, and the court isn't doing business in its true name. So there should be some conflicts of interest there.
It's like I said before. You got color law fraud too, because they're probably flying the gold fringe flag.
Yeah.
And boy, is that storm getting close. Woo!
Oh, is that lightning popping on the phone?
They're not providing. Well, they're doing color law fraud, which is your gold fringe flag. So that falls under the U.S. Marshal Service, because their job, the U.S. Marshal's job, is to protect the court. But if the court's doing fraud on you under color law, that means they can arrest the judge.
Well, I notified the marshals and they didn't respond.
Well, I'm sure they didn't. You're not supposed to know this stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, good. As long as I file a complaint and something happens.
That's right.
Because the judge charged me with the misdemeanor at the last hearing because I refused to plead since he wouldn't put jurisdiction on the record.
Oh, he has to. Once jurisdiction's questioned, he has to prove he has it. And the case can't move forward without it. That's ruling.
I've got a lot of stuff on the record, and they're just ignoring it, and everybody's telling me to plead guilty. But when he charged me with the misdemeanor,
nope, we're not going there.
He ordered me to leave the courtroom and go out in the hallway and think about things for a minute, and then he went and got the public defender and the prosecutor and brought him into court because I charged him with prosecuting from the bench.
I like that one. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, he's also acting as he is prosecuting from the bench.
Yeah, he's the only attorney in the room besides me.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not an attorney, but
yeah. Well, you tell him he's an unregistered foreign agent as a member of the bar.
I put that in my complaint that I filed with the court.
Good. How'd that go?
I haven't heard back yet. At the last hearing, he said he hadn't seen it. They're not given discovery between everybody because I was ordered to meet with the public defender.
Look up in of court, page 805, Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition, and read it before the court, and then explain why he's a barrister, a tax collector for the crown.
Well,
that makes him an unregistered foreign agent.
You said Black's Law 8th edition?
8th edition, page 805. Under INN of court.
Oh, yeah.
About halfway down on the page. So if he's a barrister, tax collector for the crown, to the College of Lincoln's Inn, and a few other colleges there in Great Britain, definitely an unregistered foreign agent. So,
that's a shitty.
I found something else out that's unrelated to this, but it's interesting, and that's that the family court judges, a lot of them aren't judges or bar attorneys at all. They're just appointed from other county agencies. So the trick there is to ask the Supreme Court for a copy of their certificate of standing, because everybody has to have a certificate of standing.
I'm not so sure, actually, a judge is required to have a law degree.
But you have to maintain a certificate of standing and a license to practice law.
I think you better do some research. because you can actually call your governor to be a judge in a court of law.
Oh, to be appointed by the governor?
No,
The governor is the judge.
Call him as a judge.
So you can demand Jerry Brown to be the judge over the case.
There's a paper he has to fill out if you appoint him.
Okay.
But he can serve as a judge.
I got one for you. Hi Michelle, I can hear you in the background. If you guys want to help me with this one, okay, I got this smart meter case that I was going to file in federal court, and I've been working on it. And I found out, okay, we noticed the city attorney for the city of Grass Valley last year, and he ignored everything. He's now the president of the Bar Association for California, so there's a conflict of interest. So Jerry Brown should be the presiding judge over this matter because there's a conflict of interest within the bar. No?
Who is it? I'm sorry, who's talking?
Mike School.
Oh, hey, Mike. Okay, I thought the voice sounded familiar. Yeah, Dave and I can help you, Mike. And there's an application too you can look up too regarding what Dave was just talking to you about. You know how you can pick a governor of your state to represent you as a judge if you feel you're not getting a fair shake in court.
Yeah, that would be awesome because I noticed him in my case and he ignored it.
Okay. Now we just sent an email to Ed, and in that it's their website now. And it's all on forms, all kinds of different forms now pertaining to government corruption, IRS corruption, and they actually have forms that are done up. And what they do is they ask you questions, and you fill in the blanks pertaining to your personal status. And, of course, now you can alter those forms, but it's a lot of help. And if you're not sure or understanding how the form, in other words, what you're putting together, how it works, you can actually ask a legal question with the parties involved. Now, keep in mind, that's only to help you with the forms. Any legal questions pertaining to the forms itself. But they even have forms on there to go after the IRS. So it's an awesome website, and it's through A through Z, and it gives you all kinds of different types of forms, including living will, long will, living will, and other kinds of power of attorney. You name it. They're all the forms that they would use for court or for other purposes. So it's an awesome site, and I sent it to Dave, and I forwarded over.
Hello?
Oh, probably the storm got them.
Oh.
Because they're right in a big electrical storm, and Dave was talking about that they might have been cut off because of the storm. They were told that's possible.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, okay, good. Well, I'm glad to see that happening. So you had moved, and I'll get that stuff posted up, and this way we can start sharing the other information out. And once we start doing the stuff and filing the stuff, because we're filing their paperwork on them. When you file your affidavits, like I preach all the time, to do these things. Now, when you go to courts and you end up in the federal courts or stuff, now you have standing without their responses.
On the paperwork.
It has to be administered in court, and you want to make sure that you're filing for a jury trial. That's 12 or more.
Yeah.
So, and Mike, you had another question, too, that we were talking about earlier, dealing with the FAIR Act.
Yeah.
So, what was your other question on it? Because I got that up. I got the forms, too, now.
How to file FARA complaints.
Yeah, I've got the forms.
Yeah.
And then I'm writing up a template for an affidavit to go along with it. So then that way, whoever's filing their form sends the affidavit with it, and they're really caught because it's a part of the form in the contract.
How are you sending it? Do you have a proof of service by mail form or anything in there?
Not yet. I'm writing that up with a jurat and everything. I'm writing up the template so everything will be right in the same paperwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you do the jurat, I would do the jurat and then an acknowledgement after it.
Okay. You had one that you had a template on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got your rats. I've got a proof of service form for mail. I got
all
all
right,
that.
well, I know you sent me the other ones. I got your Drat already in front of me. If you could resend those other two, and then I'll put all that into this, so that way there's a step, and then we'll basically put an instruction how to post it too with it.
Okay, cool.
For public posting. Because I mean, the one thing is that when we're doing this and we're writing this stuff up, and we start working with people, and they're getting it, and they're reading this, and they're learning how the steps work. Because that's the most people's difficulties and problems, because they don't know the steps. You know what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah, I
and
do.
now we're getting through the steps, and so things are changing. I've been watching a lot of different things changing. And since the beginning of this year, four police departments literally have closed down.
Good.
Literally, out of business.
Sounds like a good place to live.
So yeah, people are getting it in the communities, and these are just little small towns. The biggest one I think was 22,000, but they had the whole court system in a couple little small towns, about 8,000, and they just fired them all.
Huh.
So it's good that actually all the cops just literally walked off the job.
Yeah.
They realized, and I, by the grace of the Great Spirit, man, I blessed that because that became a conscience. Somebody had a conscience, and that's like I said, I want to see what happens to this cop that assaulted this nurse.
Oh, yeah. So far, he's been transferred.
Well, she's got a fan page up, too. I talked to the guy I did the fan page for. And I've talked to the people over at the hospital, and I gave them a whole bunch of other information for them. So I've already sent out a whole bunch of stuff to them too for their knowledge and education. Yeah. Some of the recent ones I did, and what I wrote recently, and the other one I haven't finished on the other template, but on the police departments how they work.
I typed in Hale versus Hinkle to see what would come up on Rights to Travel, and there's a video that comes up on YouTube, and it mentions Chicago Motor Coach versus Hinkle, and that's in my paperwork on the dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction, and the judge denied it.
Well, I know that's what they've all been doing is denying stuff, but that's what I'm saying is that when we start getting these cases and start getting them out, I got another case that a guy is not filing it locally. Oh man, he's not filing it locally. He's right now, taking it to the federal Supreme Court in Washington D.C.
Huh.
And they're freaking out over that one because he demands jurisdiction in Washington D.C. over the local court.
Yeah.
And so they're pushing on him right now, trying to take a plea bargain. Because they're trying to say, you don't want to go there because if you go there, this is going to create so much problems for you. No, it's creating problems from them, and they don't want it to go there because once it goes there and it gets filed, they have to go by administrative rules there. There's no easement or easeway out.
Yeah.
That's like they're trying to defend Comey right now, and he's still going down in flames. Because they're trying to defend him on some of the news channels. Oh, well, he didn't need to register with the Foreign Administration Registration Act. Excuse me. No, the 13th Amendment does exist. People are waking up to the truth, and so it's getting out there, and they're freaking out because most of these people, a lot of them knew the truth, but a lot of them, kept on teaching the other ones not to have the truth.
Yeah.
Because, see, the one thing is when I did a lot of my filings in the county here, one of the old clerks was, she worked for the county for 40 years. I never had an argument with her. She filed everything I ever did, anything I asked for. Never had a problem, even when I do that with the clerk here. Because, I've already filed on them. They know it. It's been filed through the House and Senate. So, a lot of things haven't been answered, but at least it's there. It's been public, and it's in the in the Legislative Council's records.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one way to do the filings on this stuff too. You know, that's the one thing that, you know, you go to these courts and you don't have to, when you file on your case, you know, you want to make sure that you're filing on your case as the injured party. And always put the corpus delicti in it. Mandatory, never forget that. I think that's 3771. Always put that in, because if you don't put the corpus delicti through their own administration's writing through the court system, that could be the injured party, but if you're not the corpus delicti, that means a living man or woman, the court case cannot go through. And they don't want to let you know that. That's why most of the cases get thrown out, just right there, because they don't put in corpus delicti.
Well, I put my birth certificate in the record, and the name change that I did last year, and I got the court decree that I'm not the all caps name, but in fact the living de jure man. And they still didn't dismiss it.
Yeah, no, they're just trying to keep you back in the system. Because, see, this is the one thing they did with me. Okay, they kept on arresting me, doing all this stuff, because I kept on getting out of the system. I kept on filing. And they kept on trying to get me out of the system. I mean, keep me in the system, I mean.
Yeah.
And no, I've been fighting with them like crazy on this stuff.
Well, I did the common law name change. I revoked testamentary succession to the state, and I did the poor man's patent on it, and that was the envelope that Kelly can't find.
Yeah. No, that's the frustrating part about life with people sometimes.
Well, because the other case law I put in the case says that if there's no license at the time of the roadside stop, there's no jurisdiction of the agency.
Hey.
And they're saying that state law overrides contract law, and I told them bullshit, especially if you're not doing business in your Christian name and you're doing business under the name of the Superior Court, but you're in fact the Judicial Council.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do that.
We know that. They're just trying to bullshit. You know, and that's what they're freaking out on, because some of these guys, it sounds like a couple might know it and the others don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but that's like going back to World War II, you know? It's like, it doesn't matter what you don't know. You know, you can't sit there, rape, rob, and pillage. I think that's what's happening in the Nuremberg trials.
We can't rape, rob, and pillage? Why not?
Well, we're not supposed to.
But that's the whole point.
We're supposed to have some manners. I know they don't.
I ran into this guy at the I was going to the court one day, and I stopped at the post office when I left, and there was an attorney sitting in his car, and it said Larry Ticket Slayer or something. So I started talking to him about the rights to travel, and he told me that's all crap and don't waste your time with it. He said, if you go into court, just ask the judge, what is the point? And he said they'll dismiss the case because they can't answer that question.
Yeah, you always want to ask questions. Never answer anything. You always answer with a question.
Well, the 13th will be my third hearing or third arraignment because I haven't pled yet.
Well, not only that, they can't rewrite your tickets and hand you a new tickets on a different day because then that's falsifying evidence.
Well, they already did that, and I had to get the public defender to get me a copy of the ticket because I signed it at arm's length. So
yeah, but they gave you another ticket that you have nothing on it.
Yeah.
So you have a ticket that you were forced to sign at gunpoint.
Yeah.
And the other ticket that they're trying to have you accept that contract because they committed forgery, fraud upon the court.
We're going to arrest you if you don't sign your name on the ticket. That's what he told me. And their policy is if they label you a sovereign citizen, they immediately call for backup, and then they escalated the system they escalated their response prematurely when they were saying clear the area, rounds about to go live.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think they wouldn't want this case to get out in the media care.
Yeah. Now, that's the sad part.
Yeah.
These people don't care. They've already sold their soul to the devil.
Well, they've got rid of the power of the federal judicial oath. What's next? No enforcement on FARA?
Well, yeah, that's why I'm putting this stuff up and getting this out so people have the forms. We get the forms because I'm filling them out. I've already been filling them out. I did my identity theft paperwork, and I'm still not even getting mail myself from the Postal Service.
Yeah, my mail's been really weird lately. I don't understand what's going on with it.
And I've had some other documents from a couple other places sent to me. I have not received them.
Huh.
The last medical forms that I was supposed to, or the medical charts that I was supposed to get for my last appointment, okay, I haven't received those yet. And that's been 6 weeks.
Huh.
And I mean, all this stuff started happening with my mail about 9 months ago.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been, and you know, it's like I've been on with different agencies what I filed in the affidavits, and I got claims that are existing in filing, and they're moving on it, and you know, the information that I got, the letter I got from filing with the Federal Trade Commission, the envelope and the letter were steamed and retaped.
Yeah.
I know, and I called them up. I said, "Do you guys tape your envelopes?" And she goes, "What are you talking about?" You know, because I want to talk to the individual who sent it to me. And I was just asking because I mean, you could just see it, man. You could see, and I have it in an evidence bag because I didn't open it. I ain't touching it because I don't saying too much. But you know, when you get evidence, you don't sit there and let it go.
Well,
so you don't open certain envelopes either.
I've been working on my cases so long, I'm just tired of even thinking about them anymore.
I know, same with me. I mean, you know, but I've been jumping on a lot of other cases here lately, and that's been, you know, okay, I don't mind it, but it gets a little frustrating, you know, because the last couple of people that I helped, you know, I was like, they're like, well, why should I file this form, and what does it matter if I file it, if I do or don't file it?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, you know, I already got all these hours in the circumstances, done all this research, put things together, and then I'm getting this response.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so if you don't want to do that, I'm not being set up, because to me that's a setup. Because in that way the state would, you know, they could try to charge me acting as an attorney without a license and a lot of other shit that they could try to, you know, make my life miserable by. You know what I mean?
They asked me in court if I was acting as an attorney, and I said no, I'm an advocate for somebody, and they accepted that and didn't bother me anymore.
Mhm.
But last year I took my kids to the river probably three to four times a week. This year we didn't go to the river once.
Mhm.
Because I was dwelling on these cases and studying for them and overthinking them all.
Yeah. Well, I got to throw this one out. I got a question here I see up here dealing with title to nobility, which disappeared in 1829, but was ratified. Yes, it was ratified, and we published the House and Public Hearing on it in 1965. It was with John F. Kennedy when he became president. It was one of the hearings that he did on the title and nobility, and we have that information, and the title of nobility exists. They brought it in. That's the same thing as the 13th Amendment, because Senator Trumbley, Representative Trumbley from Boston, you can type her name in, or we have it up. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out if we have the video up. Where they admit that the 13th Amendment was even passed and ratified, and they even ratified it in New Hampshire. And I think this was done in 2006. So they made sure that public employees had to register with Foreign Administration Registration Act, do all their paperwork correctly and all that. That was the whole structure. And Trumbley was the one that came out and said, and was able to prove at the House and Senate public hearings that, was so interesting that the Boston bombing was part of the funding of the Boston Police Department. It was a set-up exercise. And you could type in that too, and I hate saying type in. Believe me, I hate using the word type in, because I'd much rather have it for you. But right now, I don't got it yet. So as soon as I get it up, we'll get it in. But, these are things that are going on. So, Dave, it's like, not Dave, I'm sorry, Mike. On the one point here on what this nurse was assaulted by, what do you think?
I think the cop crossed the line and she was in the right, and you're not supposed to attack medical personnel, and you don't fuck with EMTs and firefighters. That's common sense.
Sort of stupid, because when you get shot in the line of duty, or you get in an accident on a job and you get drugged in, I'm thinking to myself, how stupid. They started a war.
Well, I just see that I got into law enforcement after I got out of the Marine Corps, and after realizing the type of personalities and people I'd be associating with, I quit the police academy and dropped all of it, just because I didn't want to make my living off other people's misery.
Mm-hmm.
And cops are supposed to be honorable people that are role models in our communities, and they're not. They're just assholes and piles of shit anymore. Pardon my French if any cops are listening, but it's true. And if you think you're a good cop, you're a pile of shit, because the good cop should be pointing out the bad and exposing the fraud and not covering it up because they got a pension to think about. Because I forfeited all my pensions to do what I do.
Yeah, but see, the one thing is that, so you know this one. Okay, I was a rent-a-cop, basically, and that's what a cop is. You know that, right?
I thought you were a marshal.
Well, I was deputized as a marshal, and I got on the whole game of that whole thing. Not only that, they deputized me more than once, and they tried to put me in the middle of bullshit. And, like I said, I like living. When I got busted with the 22 keys of cocaine in California, and everybody's going, oh, you'd be a cocaine dealer and all this shit. I was going to point A to the airport and back, thought I was picking up another musician under contract. And I had no idea I was getting involved in one of the big busts that were involved in a lot of things. But, it's just one of those things that happen in life. So I can't bitch. I have to deal with what transpired out of it. But at least the truth came out. That was the main part. That was the main part. But, and that's one thing I couldn't do, because I was a rent-a-cop. I know what a rent-a-cop is. Same thing as a cop. There's no difference, because a cop works for the city for code, statutes, and administrative rules purposes. And technically in the police department, they're not supposed to be working that way. They're supposed to be policing the elected and public servants. And when they commit crimes and violations, you're supposed to arrest them and take them into custody.
Yeah.
Because the sheriff are supposed to be personally handling, not their deputies, but the sheriffs are supposed to be handling them, people in their own counties. Deputies are a private corporation, no different than the police department.
But the sheriff is supposed to have jurisdiction over all the other agencies.
And he's supposed to have jurisdiction over the court, too.
And they won't exercise it.
Go ahead.
They won't exercise it.
No, I know that. I went through that. I'm still fighting that in my county right now. I filed on the sheriff here and stuff. I got all these filings going like crazy. That's why the recall's going on the governor right now in my state. That's why I got to finish the rest of the other 9 charges, or the other 8 charges on her. Well, no, is it? I already got 3. I got at least 6 more charges I have to file on her. And that's including being the bar attorney and stuff. So I got to get this other case I'm working on right now finished. I got 3 cases in front of me I got to get finished up. Or not cases, I would say suggestions that I'm writing. And it's like, so I'm trying to get this stuff out so we can get people educated, because once people start getting educated, we're starting to see movements and change. And the mainstream media, even what I had a clip on that I got to find again, even brought up House Resolution 192 on Fox News.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting because the point. I hate to counter sometimes, but I have to pay attention. But that's one. Just did it again. It's one of those things, that it's gonna happen. It's like I'm having fun here because John Kitzhopper is the governor that I filed property tax fraud on in 2013. Okay, you get where I'm coming from with this?
Yeah.
So 2013, and I filed criminal charges on him, and he's a former doctor. He was the governor of the state of Oregon. So, we had some interesting conversations sometimes in the hallways up at the Capitol. But when I was shocked is this came out May 23rd, 2017. And now he's bringing up things that I thought was interesting. John Kitzhopper on straw man proposal. You get that one, straw man, right?
Yeah.
That would close Oregon's $1.4 billion shortfall that they're trying to bill the taxpayers to come in your home, take your guns, steal your assets, do all this stuff. And I'm surprised that Kitzhopper came out and said this. Because, he's a former emergency room doctor, right? So he knows about the straw man account then, all right? You get my point?
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed he got it because, I'm trying to say this to people, years ago, and everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So, I look at it to me when I read this headline, and this was sent to me by somebody in, let's just say, in the public service. It was sent to me, and when I read it, it was, interesting. Because they're slowly getting it, and this is how we can save it. Trump is the president of a corporation that was a British contract with the Vatican with us after the Civil War. The North and the South. And people don't comprehend the Civil War, what civil means. Legal British terminology. You know what I'm saying there.
That we're still at war?
Well, we're not supposed to be at war. That's what these city public officials and stuff, they get brought up and they don't pay attention to what's going on. It's like my house, my area that I live in. I used to have 300-foot trees around here. Okay, so when it was 100 degrees in downtown, in my valley here, it was always 70 degrees. And when the sun went down, it cooled off here faster because we had all these big trees around. In the last couple of years, they cut over 500 trees around my area.
Yeah.
So today it's only 100 degrees. It's 94 out there right now. Of course, in Oregon, we're not always used to this on the coast. So, it's things that you look at life and you step back and you got to take a look at things.
How far are you from the coast?
I'm only 8 miles from the beach.
Can you feel the breeze at night?
Well, I can feel the breeze at night now when they cut all the trees down. We got 100-mile-an-hour winds coming through the valley here now.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. It blew. My neighbors put up a fence. My neighbors were trying to take 15 by 100 feet of my property, both of my neighbors. So, all this stuff was filed in my court cases, too. Because they're going after me trying to say, I interfered with a cop because I told the cop he couldn't deliver an unlawful warrant because it had to be served by a videos on YouTube. It has to be done by a grand jury. And the cop literally bowed in front of her, put it on the ground, and said, if you don't pick that up, okay, I'm going to arrest you for littering. I had to say, no, I witnessed you littered. You didn't, you littered. And I said, by the way, you can't arrest anybody for littering with paper products, and even most plastics today because they dry up so quick the way they're made. And you can't, for food and vegetables and stuff, it's biodegradable property, biodegradable. And if people actually read the law, You know, when you drive down the road, just throw that banana peel way off and it just don't hit somebody in the face. But, you know, everybody does it. We all do it. Apple cores and stuff.
Yeah. Have you studied Title 46 much or at all?
Some of it have. I have. I got to get back into it because I was going through that 3 months ago, and I was looking at things that I could cross-reference with a couple other. The way I do my paperwork, I could have put that paragraph with 2 other paragraphs from 2 other parts that would have just when you read it, it would just open your mind to the whole circumstances.
I found a code. I don't remember it offhand, but it said something about claims arising in admiralty on land.
Yes.
And I was over here earlier today, was telling me that he's 6 because he believes it's our remedy, and it's how you can capture their ship of court.
Right, and that is part of what was going on when these costs were starting to get filed on.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was putting this stuff that I was putting on the costs, the first letter out, and I got to rewrite this one and finishing it. I was looking for the law that I had, because I had the law, federal law, for public safety, stated, and I haven't been able to find it yet, was that the only way a police officer can use, or public servant, can use his emergency lights if it's life and death situation. And if he used it for tickets, he was liable. And this was a court case. There was 2 of them I had.
Yeah.
And I just haven't been able to find them. And I got those from 2 stated, just from attorneys that sent them to me going, I thought you would enjoy this because I sent them some stuff. So they sent me a couple things back, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I've been looking for them because I know there's 2 major court cases, but they don't want the public to know it. You know how that goes because we've been seeing a lot of things that what we've done and opened up, you know, when you start reading this stuff and you start going, you know, this is the way it is, and people don't comprehend that the Constitution, if you comprehend it, you have rights, not privileges. And these guys are freaking out because we're standing on it.
Yeah.
That's our pulpit for all those religious. But, you know, I mean, this is the one thing, you know, it's like I'm going through this stuff, what I've been putting together and writing. And if people's got to realize if you file your stuff, you have your deal when you go to court. It's not hearsay evidence. You know, I mean, I've been really blessed, and I did it again, but anyhow, I've been really blessed that several things that I've done for some people with kids have gone through. But
yeah.
they have, and I got to finish up the other templates. I'm working on that too. I got a lot on my plate. I'm trying to get caught up here. But the other point with that is that they're getting their birth certificate. The hospital's not registering, and we're not getting vaccines, and they're just being escorted out of the hospital after the woman's stable. Because by law, they have to give medical attention.
Do you think it's a good idea to authenticate the birth certificate?
Well, see, that's a toss-up to me. I never authenticated mine. I filed and claimed mine. I claimed ownership of that birth certificate and name, so that way I was able to write off my financial basic water, electricity, and food, the basic stuff. Medicare is part of it because the Constitution says, and I love it when people say, oh, they never said nothing about health insurance in the Constitution. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Without life, you don't have any life, you know what I'm saying? Without happiness, that's your medical, dental, and all that. You know, it's one way you can look at things. Because this is what they're supposed to have been writing off of 192. And they've been writing 192 off to the immigration since Carter. And it's like, no, we've got to get that back to what it's supposed to be done the way it's written. Yeah. And that's for we the people, the bloodline Americans, 5 generations.
The way it's going now, by 2025, we're going to be looking at like 25 to 35 million Muslims.
Yeah, well, I know that. That's why we've got to shut the damn borders down.
Well, I was at a Social Security office about 5 years ago, and the people that were getting preference were the non-English speaking immigrants because they couldn't enter the workforce readily. and they were bringing whole families in, and they were all qualifying for aid and benefits.
Yeah, I know, and that's the point. They're not supposed to get welfare. They're not supposed to get $50,000 in a brand new, van. That's what pisses me off, because that's our stuff that they're giving to them. But the Democrats, when the Democrats put out this survey, what year was that survey they did? It was all over the local TV stations up here, and they did it in California too. It was like, if an immigrant had an emergency medical procedure that needed to be done or was injured in an accident, should they get medical insurance paid by we, the people here, or should they just be shipped home in their medical condition and the way they are?
Well, there's nothing wrong with them getting medical treatment in the moment, but we shouldn't...
No, but you're missing the point. So they said, okay, everybody said, oh, we'll give them medical treatment. So they said, okay, so everybody agrees to medical treatment for immigration. This is how the Democrats view the statistic here. So this is when they went to the federal courts and passing bills and going to the court and suing. They're taking these surveys going in, see, we have all these people that says it's okay to give these immigrants medical, so we don't have to provide for the natives. I mean, people, this is how they play the game up there.
Yeah.
That's why some of these public servants make $500,000 to sometimes $1 million a year, these contractors of public service. You know? Oh, I don't know. I think they call them lobbyists. And they even have to be registered.
I finally found a mention by the CEO of the county about the CAFR reports in a public brochure on the tourism for the county.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised. I never heard anybody mention the CAFR accounts before.
And I believe I've mentioned the CAFR accounts to you before in our conversations.
I don't mean you and me and Arnie and, us average people. I mean public officials.
That was Walter Bruin.
No, I'm talking about I've never seen public officials mention it in their documents.
Oh, but now they are, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
been trying to get the public books here.
Yeah.
In my state here for years. Okay? Because I filed on the school district CAFR reports, the city CAFR reports, because I wanted to see the bank accounts, where the money was actually going to. And next thing you know, I'm being politically attacked in the media by state attorney general, district attorneys, public employees, telling everybody, oh, it's like you shouldn't be talking about this, Ed. So they started attacking me really heavy. But, it was like I wanted to see the bank accounts. I even filed for the bank accounts. Next thing you know, they're trying to stop me from going to the Oregon State Supreme Court. And then when I get to the Oregon State Supreme Court, which I knew the judge from the Capitol in public meetings and hearings and talking to him in the hallway, he sees my name on the paperwork, and I never got a response back from nobody.
Yeah.
So I know that they know who filed the paperwork and they know who did what, I'm saying that again. But anyhow, the point being is that they do. And that is the main, we need to do that stuff, getting the stuff when we're writing this stuff and filing this stuff.
See, if we could break down one FARA complaint and one judicial complaint,
got it.
I got a lot of people I could share that information with that could do it in their own cases.
Right, that's exactly what we're doing. With once we start breaking down this structure, they wrote it. All right, now we know, and I know this personally from a lot of elected and public officials. And I'm talking, cops, marshals, different agencies. I do know a lot of people. And right now, the deal is 45% they're saying are bad. All right, that's what they're claiming in-house. I believe it's more, but also, too, they know if they speak against it, they get set up to lose their job, their pension, their careers. So, I mean, this is that's been going on because, basically souls they're souls in their contract, because you sign a contract from employment, most people do. So, it's one of those things when you sign a contract for any kind of employment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing is I used to run my own security company and ran my own little construction company. Well, it wasn't construction; it was just basic repairs. Painting and repairs on house. But I never went through what people go through. It's like, and they're going, you never had a business license? You never did this? You never did that? One of the first city government jobs I had, I was 14. I worked for the city of California. I was the landscaper for the city hall and the police department. It was only a block long, block around. It was just a small little town. And every week when I went in Friday, after pulling the weeds, mowing the lawn, doing, basic landscaping as a kid, I didn't get a paycheck. I got paid what they call out of the CAFR reports, the petty cash.
Huh.
Okay. And I worked for a couple little agencies like that. I worked for Nevada, California. They used to pay the kids right out of petty cash. But some of the employees were stealing money back then. That's what they were claiming. That's why they got rid of the program. Okay? And that's the one thing that just bothered me, because it's like all of a sudden everybody's in their grips. And I was young. I had some concept of it, but I didn't know half the much what I know now. But I had the theories, I had the ideas, I could see it, but I had to have the evidence to prove the things I'm saying. So, I mean, that's the whole point of putting this stuff together, like we're doing. Because you and I and Dave were all putting this stuff together for ourselves. We got other information, and, I always like it because it's great when I'm able to put some of the information in my writing that just flows, and it's like sometimes I get stuff when I'm deadlocked on something, and it's like then I get this thought, and then all of a sudden the other part I need to go into it shows up.
Yeah.
So I mean, so things like that happen. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I do know that. Sometimes patience pays.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're all starting to put this stuff together, and we get both of our sites put together, and we got this stuff bouncing information. Somebody help with some of the stuff. Because it would be nice, to get that. I haven't got the thing where I was able to put the number up yet. So that's where I'm at with that one. Because I want to get the 800 number, because I've had a lot of emails from people going, I don't have long distance. So that went, but we're working on it. We're slowly coming together on this. I'll get that other information that Dave sent to me, and then once I get the other email, as soon as I get that from him, I'll give that to you immediately, Mike. And I'll get that posted on all the sites again.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Because like I said, so we all start working together on this stuff. We're putting it together. We're putting pieces together of the puzzle here. And so now when we've got the stuff how to file and do all this stuff, okay, what are they going to do? They're already panicking because they're now, I couldn't believe, the former governor coming on straw man accounts, and he knows birth certificates.
I've been finding a lot of information identifying the straw man and different things lately. So they can't. I've been putting it all in my case because I was told that they never want to see your birth certificate in public records.
No, they don't. I took my birth certificate into court here in Lincoln County with me one day on the same charge because I was kidnapped and held for ransom because I told the cop he couldn't serve an unlawful warrant. Lawful, not legal. And he was all been out, and the video's on YouTube, so it's out there. Ed Johnston Toledo, there's a lot of videos. But anyhow, and, this is the point, is that he didn't have any jurisdiction. She didn't cause no injury to anybody. And not only that, I was on the phone with her when they got pulled over without their papers. And even the cop knew what they were talking about, but, it was, some of these cops know. I'm glad on that one video that we had 2 weeks ago on the show, or we're going to have to play that. We didn't play it on the show. We'll have to play that one video where the cop in California actually told the kid the 2 other things they needed to file to get their car out of the system.
Really?
Yeah, we got the video, yeah.
I haven't seen that one because I go to court again on this thing on the 13th, and so far I haven't seen anything that says that I can get out and not having a license through the state.
Well,
nothing that they're recognizing.
Well, let me see if I pulled it up here again, and if I got it. Yeah, I got it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on your page right now. Okay, so you can actually, here's the video. It's 16 minutes long. And the cop handled it really well. He didn't give him threatening gestures or anything. He was very cordial. I was really impressed with the way that his public servant handled it. And he told him a couple things he needed to do. It's on your wall right now.
Okay, cool, thanks.
And so, that, like I said, 16 minutes, but it's like he's sitting there going and stating this stuff.
Yeah.
And making sure they know it. And the cop says, I could just impound your car and stuff. He goes, you seem like an honest kid. You're telling me the truth. I get where you're coming from. I know what you mean. And here you got to do these other 2 steps, and then you're out of the system. And I couldn't believe the cop said it to him.
I can't either.
But there are some getting it. So long as that we're getting the men and women that are starting to catch on, and they're changing, and they're doing this, and we start getting a change from the in-house. Now, with this cop assaulting this nurse the way he did, oh, shit, that's worldwide, man, because that's an Olympic gold winner.
Yeah.
He don't realize how bad he screwed up.
I think he does.
I want to see that guy out of employment. If he ever gets in an situation around in that county in any of the hospitals, they're going to look at him and wonder why they should do what?
I've heard that there was already a hospital or EMT that refused to cop medical attention.
That what?
I saw a video or something yesterday about that an EMT or somebody refused to cop medical attention.
These guys don't get how bad they screw up. And so we know that they've been crossing the line.
Yeah.
So, and it's getting out there by the talk shows, by people speaking about it. The videos that, I put stuff all over on the internet. Everybody knows that. So and I get interesting responses. And it's like the one thing I got, this guy asking me, well, Dad, how would you solve the issue with the lady who was assaulted at the hospital? Number 1, write the assault and criminal charges. Attempt to cause harm, cruelty to animal, encaging an animal. I can come up with probably 35 charges to nail this guy and go after his house, his home, and his assets. Just under 35 charges, and, it's one of those things that, let's say 3/4 of them he gets convicted on, and the rest of them he don't, but he's still got a conviction, and not only that, they have to give her his assets, his home, his bank account. And some of these guys are getting it.
Yeah.
So we're slowly seeing it. Like I said, when you watch that video, too, and I got another video I got to try to find, because I had a guy that sent me another video where the cop was apologetic for pulling the guy over.
Huh.
Because he claimed that he was lawful, not legal.
So the cop let him go?
Yeah, the cop, just looked at him and said, well, he goes, I'm not I'm lawful, I'm not legal, I'm not going to contract, I don't answer any questions, and I have a contract for you to sign. The cop says, have a good day, and walked away.
Was that the one with the two guys in the car, and they had the secured party creditor paperwork, and he said he didn't have it notarized yet?
No, I saw that one too. But he didn't arrest him or anything.
Yeah. I got to let you go. I got to get my kids in the bathtub, and I'm getting yelled at.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Mike. We appreciate it, and like I said, we're all working putting the education out. So we're starting to put all this stuff together. So we're all doing our cases this way, putting it together, filing it, and then when they got so many cases that are filed there, they can't turn their head to it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing. They are slowly waking up to this.
Well, so far all I've seen is them dismissing people's cases and not doing anything really.
Yeah, I know. I got 3 cases that were already dismissed 2 weeks ago because of what was filed in the court.
Yeah.
They went to court, and these are, city courts, and they were asked why they were there.
What did you say earlier to do in the paperwork, the claim, to make sure you're the injured party?
Oh, corpus delicti.
Yeah, okay. Corpus delicti.
3771.
Okay.
And you always have to put corpus delicti in your paperwork. You always have to put injured party.
Well, can I call you back later and talk to you about it a little bit?
Yeah, but also, too, people will say plaintiff, injured party. A plaintiff is a British word for another word of slave. You're asking permission.
Okay.
So we're not asking permission. We know our heritage. Yeah, that's the whole point. We know our heritage, where everybody's learning their heritage. And so when you know this stuff, and we've already got the laws up, we've already been passing them around. I've been passing them around for a long time. Once you figure out, and once you're lawful or legal, then you know your standing when you go in these courts. And so long as that you're legal and you pay your taxes and follow through with that until your 5th generation where you're lawful, they can't mess with you because you're paying them for their employment to protect you.
I have one more for you.
If there's no injured party, no property damage.
Do you mind if I call you back later?
Yeah, no problem. Anyhow, you have a blissful evening, and so I just want to bring that up. Oh, my God, I got that many tonight already. I'm pushing 70. I won't say it. I'm trying to get that. I'm working on that one. That's a pretty good hit tonight.
Later, Ed. Thanks.
Anyhow, I will yak at you after, an hour or something.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, because I figure we're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon if anybody doesn't have any questions. But we want to make sure that I do have the stuff on the fan page for her on our site for the nurse. So you go, there's a fan page been created for her. So please join that, because this is the one thing that we start standing together and we start protecting the nurses and we start protecting the medical deal. And you want to protect your bloodline. You want them to protect you. This nurse said that they were going by the law. She could not give that public servant a blood sample because of the car wreck that he was in. Trying to force him to do that. And so, because if they were in the wrong, I don't know the circumstances, but I know public servants do this. I've seen it with my own eyes and witnessed it with my own eyes. They will ask for blood tests for people so that way they can try to come after you with whatever's in your system. And that's illegal. That's stuff the body. That's stuff the paperwork. That is protected by the Constitution. And that is the one thing that once you start comprehending, the Constitution gives you rights. Learn the rights and learn how to use your rights. Because we're all working on this. That's the whole beauty of it. We're all educating each other. We're all putting the information. Mike's got a website up too. We've been bouncing information back and forth. So we're doing all this so this way not only are we figuring it out, but this way it protects your bloodline, your family. If you're a lawful bloodline American, Native, because look at the terminology of what native really means. And if you're a legal citizen, and I'm talking legal, illegals have no rights in this country. That's by UC8, Immigration Act. That goes back to 1774 with the British War and Fight. So that's the one thing that we have to remember, what the forefathers of this country fought for. Remember, they left England. That was run by religion. So they left because, and they wrote that stuff, freedom of religion. I say freedom from. Because they know what it did to the people there. They know that. They know what they did to the people. So this is where it comes down to, is why we're doing proper education. We're going through the hard knocks. We all are going through the hard knocks through this stuff. And it is a learning process. So that's the one blessing about all this. We're all learning from one another and educating ourselves and the children. And so we're working on more on the site too. We got some homeschooling stuff. We'll get more put up there eventually here. We're trying to get this site set up so that way it's basically a one-stop center. Mike's got his site, and he never brought it up tonight, which he should have brought it up, but because I don't like to bring up the word that he uses in it, but that's my point. So no offense, Mike, but just the way I am about that word, So anyhow, I would like to, if there's any other questions or anybody else would like to chime off, please chime now. No one else out there? Okay. Well, I guess we'll call it an evening, and I would like to thank everybody for listening and learning and the knowledge that we're passing on back and forth, so that way we know what our country is, who our country is, and the people in our country. We have to know who's in our country. We have to know who's lawful and legal, and we have to know who's participating in the programs. And
hey,
Ed? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I ran into a state cop. That Pence showed up here the other night. You go into the airport, and they blocked off all the traffic, wouldn't let anybody through. You knew who Pence is, the vice president. Anyway, all the state policemen come into the marathon station down there. And I was talking to a lady about how they're stealing children for 3-to-1 field funding, and it just so happened a state policy man walked up at that time, and I said, here's the man that'll help them do it. And he says, who, me? And I says, yeah, you. You're a policy man for the state of West Virginia Corporation. Well, he didn't know who he worked for, and he thought he was in the United States. And didn't know the difference between the United States of America, and he didn't know who he worked for. He thought he was working for the government. He didn't know he was working for the corporation. He didn't know the corporation existed. Just totally ignorant about who he was working for. Well trained. But he had no ability to think for himself, apparently, because he didn't know where the United States was. And I explained to him, you and I go down to the post office, and we get in a fight, they're going to call the feds. That's in the U.S. We go across the street and get in a fight, they're going to call the local yokel because we're in the United States of America. And he caught on to that. And he finally asked me if I was a sovereign citizen. I said, are you trying to ask me if I'm a fool? And I says, now how can you be sovereign and owe allegiance to? The word citizen means owe an allegiance to. And he finally just said, well, it's been nice talking to you, and drove away. But there was about, at least 15 or 20 more cops there.
Yeah, hang on a second. I let my dog out.
Gonna let your dog out. Okay. I've heard about that down in Seattle. You there?
He's currently letting his dog out, so evidently Ed let the dog out. Woot, woot, woot.
Oh, like they do in Seattle? Who let the dogs out? Who? The Huskies. Anyway, yeah, I just had fun with that cop, but I'll let it go at that.
We will now have a brief intermission while Ed takes his dog out to potty. And remember,
that dog had to go out.
Well, I'm glad you let the dog out. It could be a mess if you don't.
Yeah, I don't like that, so the dog knows where to go.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, he didn't know he was a policy man. He'd never heard of FE versus GE. He knew nothing about law, and all he knew was legal. And it was interesting watching the looks on the rest of those cops' faces while I was raking this guy over the coals. He said, I know nothing about it. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you might want to be for learning. And that was the way it went. But I'll let it go at that.
But no, that's the one thing, some people have been telling me I get too rough on things, and it's like, I know people don't know it all, or been reading, comprehend when you put it together and walk people through it, and
yeah, if we all knew, you could just say accurately.
Right. But that's the one thing that's been really good, because, when me and Dave started getting together a few years back, and we started putting all this stuff together and going back and forth and making sense of it, putting it in basic chronicle order so you can put the court cases and stuff almost where it actually explains the story of the whole circumstances right by their own cases, by their own structure.
Well, all I know is here they just throw them away if they don't like what they're facing. If they commit a crime, it's an organized crime, and if you cite them for a crime, they throw it away.
Well, no,
so I got to take it to a different court.
No, some of them are being charged. And like I said earlier tonight, I don't know if you were if you were on earlier, but
I wasn't. I was on a job.
Okay. But there's been 4 police departments that have literally, the entire police department walked off the job. Because they weren't going to rape, rob, and pillage anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so we got them paying attention. They are starting to listen. And that's the one best part about it. They're starting to listen. Because if they don't pay attention, and the thing is that people don't comprehend this, if their budget is cut, that's the one thing. If their budget is cut, they cannot recreate that budget again.
Well, I'm afraid if they go cutting all their the policymen's budgets, they'll bring in the military instead.
That's why we don't want any of our businesses privatized.
Right. Well, the problem is the United States Corporation is privatized. And that's the United States Army.
Missing the point. What? The water departments were not privatized. They were publicly owned. The electricities were publicly owned. So that way, if you didn't pay your bill, it wasn't a big deal. They wrote it off way back when until the 1980s. Because they started privatizing electricity companies.
Water companies. It's all private here. The water's private.
Yeah, but no, they didn't do it that quick. They weren't able to start privatizing things until after they privatized the hospitals in 1973. And that's when they started. Go ahead.
Is the U.S. corporation a for-profit corporation or not?
Yes, but these water companies and stuff were not part of it. They were publicly owned.
Right.
All right? Were owned by we the people. We're the stockholders of them.
Well, what I'm trying to say, Ed, is the Army is the U.S. Army, and that's the U.S. Navy. That's the corporate Army, and that's the corporate Navy. I served in that corporate Army for 7.5 years.
That was my problem. I didn't take orders well.
I didn't take orders well either, but I always was able to. Sometimes I was able to rescue those that wanted to bust me. I took a captain from a $128,000 statement of charges down to report a survey because I bailed him out for $68,000 worth of tools.
Yep.
But he wanted to bust me the whole time. Then I was his best buddy after I bailed him out. But I just happened to stumble upon them. They were going to be thrown away, and I carried them back and a dump truck load, a well-loaded dump truck load, and dumped them on the supply sergeant's lawn and drove away and didn't say a thing. But somebody ratted on me. But anyway, yeah, don't forget that that's the U.S. Army and that's the U.S. Navy. That's not USA Army or USA Navy. That's
right.
U.S.
U.S. corporation, yes. That's why the Vietnam War was fought over copper, zinc, and tin.
Well, the Vietnamese was fighting because the French had forced them to export as much rice when there was a rice famine as they normally did, while the people starved to death in the streets.
Right.
And that was the Queen's War. That wasn't our war. The Queen of England wanted that war. Whenever France wanted to pull out, the Queen of England picked it up and assigned it to us. That was done under the bankruptcy.
Right. And that's the thing that still trying to figure out how they were able to bankrupt it because the federal government's the British government, not part of the United States.
Right.
People.
United States of America.
Right.
Yeah, different entity than the United States. When we go out of the post office and get in a fight, they call the feds. That's U.S. We go across the street, we're in the USA. But anyway, I've taken enough of your time. But I thought I'd mention this cop that had no idea what a policy man was. He said policy. I said, "You gotta read your badge. Read inside your car." He didn't know he was enforcing policy. He thought he was a lawman. But, I guess if you put blinders on a jackass, he'll follow any rule.
Yeah, I know. That's the point. They do. That is a valid point.
We'll catch you later.
All right, man. We appreciate you joining us this evening, and you have a very good evening.
I'm going to try to, Ed. You do the same.
Talk to you again.
Yeah. You know my number.
Oh, yeah. Never called that before, have I? Anyhow, you have a good night, Daniel.
You do the same, Ed. Bye-bye.
Right. So, but anyhow, like I said, putting this stuff together, start filing the paperwork on your public servants. Because that's starting to work. They're getting it. People are starting to wake up. And I've talked to many public servants about when they lose their budget, you can't get it back, and your pension goes with that. And they say, oh, no, they just pass it on the taxpayers. No, actually, it gets passed on the banks, and then they try to go after us through property taxes for their screw-ups and stuff. So, and we're living with that, because even property taxes, I even got Representative Greenlick and admitting on, eventually I got to get those videos up where I've got it on the public records where they're admitting that property taxes are voluntary. So I'm working. I got some videos I still have to get up. I got to figure that one out coming up here shortly. So I got a whole bunch of videos I want to get up so people can start seeing this stuff. So this way you can comprehend where I went through the hard knocks like a lot of us have done, and I learned through it, and learning how to file the correct paperwork through the circumstances of these things. Because if we don't file the paperwork and we don't do it, we know the district attorneys and the lawyers and everybody work for the British government. But when people start filing this stuff, and it starts to become public record, like what happened to, Comey, and that was on the House and Senate, where the House and Senate even admitted that you had to be registered, and Comey was claiming that he was above the law. No. The Constitution was put in so if people say the Constitution is not your law, the Constitution is not for you. It is for us, folks. It is to protect us from elected and public servants and from any religion. Okay?
If I may add.
Go ahead.
On these oaths of office, where it says to the U.S. Constitution, not to the USA Constitution, but the U.S. Constitution, is that a valid oath of office?
That goes to the Treaty of 1871 that we had with the British. That is the 1871 treaty with the British government and Vatican with this country after the Civil War.
So that's not a valid oath of office?
No, they have an oath of office when they get paid. They're supposed to honor the contract of the Constitution. They're not supposed to go by administrative rules.
Well, they're going by this 1871 Constitution, the U.S. Constitution.
Right, we know, and that's what a lot of them have been taught. This is their Constitution, what they have to go by, but not every one of them have actually read the other one that's comprehending that says if you don't follow through, you get fired. You lose and that's the point. Go ahead.
I called Bo Hoover, the House parliamentarian, and asked him which Constitution they were using. And he says, I don't know. And I says, you are aware that there's two Constitutions? He says, no. And I called him back 2 weeks later. I gave him 2 weeks to figure it out. And I asked him, he says, they're still working on it. Our lawyers are still working on it. And I called him back a month later. And it was still, I don't know which Constitution we're under.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's the House parliamentarian for the state of West Virginia, Corporation. But anyway, I'll let it go at that.
No, that's wonderful information to share with people, because this is the one thing about bringing these things up, so that way people realize that not everybody knows. I mean, like this cop who assaulted the nurse, and the video I saw, it just comes across to me that I could just see this guy should be fired, because I wonder how many other people he's assaulted on the job, on the employment record of, how many cases have been filed on him, how many people he's intimidated and everything else. I think that's a good way to look at it and see what his record is and have people look at what he's been doing in the community. But the only ones who could do that, the best ones for that one, is the hospitals. The hospitals are picking up.
Ed, here we have people committing suicide by shooting themselves in the armpit and out the other armpit with a rifle.
Yep.
And then the rifle disappeared for 3 months in the back of a police car, but it was a suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of those type of things. Of course, I've put in the paper many times, publicizing the mainstream paper in Oregon, I will not commit suicide. I'm not even in that type of deal. That's why I don't take most of the medication they try to give me and everything else, because I do the research. And when they give you medication, do the research. Mainly look at the side effects.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And what it does to you. And if you mix the medication, look at the side effects with other medication.
Yeah. We actually had one guy here had a bunch of stuff on the police. He had a backpack full, and it disappeared when they blew his legs off down here at Second Creek. They cut his legs completely off with bullets.
No.
They amputated his legs with bullets, but the backpack disappeared. Backpack full of evidence.
Isn't that a coincidence?
Yeah, isn't that a coincidence?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those things in my time.
We had several thousand pounds of drugs disappear out of the courthouse down here, too, that was evidence in a drug case.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was ever said about all that evidence disappearing out of the courthouse.
Well, like I said, I made a wrong judgment one time on a bodyguard job I did, security job. So I ended up in this little situation where I was sitting with 22 keys of cocaine with these guys. When I went to court, only 7.
Went to court, it was 27, huh?
Only 7 was in the evidence locker.
Oh, okay. Well, I bought a sheriff's auction van one time that had a baggie about 2 inches thick and about 6 inches square of cocaine in it.
Yeah.
Bought it from the sheriff's auction. That was back in '89. You there?
Yeah. No, I bought vehicles like that from police auctions. Matter of fact, one of the covered wagon I got now, I bought from a state auction.
Yeah, this was one of them vans with the mural of the sailboat and the sunset on the side and all that. Well, behind the driver's seat there was a wet bar. We had a flood in '89. The whole van went underwater. And there's a mirror in that wet bar, one of them marbled mirrors, had 4 tabs, held it on. And when I removed that mirror, there was a hole in the wall that was 4 inches by 5 inches. And down in that hole in the wall, there was a bag of Coke. I took it up to the top of the hill and poured it down the toilet and flushed it. Then I told the cops about it, and they said, well, why didn't you give us that? We need that for evidence. And I said, well, the guy that used to own the van is dead. What you going to arrest him for? And I said, I'm sure I wanted to give you my van for evidence and let you tear it all to shreds and then call me up in 3 years and tell me to come get it in pieces. I said, no, I just flushed it down the toilet.
Yeah.
But that's the way it goes. Anyway, I'll let you go.
Anyhow, we'll talk to you another time because we're going to wrap up tonight. And unless there's somebody else who'd like to speak, and if not, we'll wrap up. So, I guess not. Anyhow, you have a good one, Daniel. Anyhow, we'd like to thank everybody who joined us this evening. Thank Dave for joining us, and give some thoughts to him for what he's gone through. It's a tough deal. I've never been through something like that one, but that one's tough. That one's tough, the stroke. So, but anyhow, I'd like to say we wish you all a great spirit and Mother Earth. I believe in that. Everybody knows that. May the Great Spirit bless you. May Mother Earth shine on you, and the Creator walk with you. And I'll end with that, and thank you.
All participants are muted.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word? I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge. Dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Thank you for listening to Disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. Today is Monday, September 4th, 2017. It is currently 7:28 Pacific Standard Time, and we do thank you for listening, and hopefully you have learned something from this show. Have a good night.